Figuring out whether you need to use a calculated column or a measure tends to be the first Power BI frustration I see with some new users. I don't understand why, if I just need a custom column, that I have to decide what kind I need from the get-go. But that's what this video is. We're gonna walk through exactly which one you'll need to pull out when, so that you don't have to fumble in the dark the next time you need to do one of the either. So this channel is all about helping you use the data and tools that you have on hand in the time it takes to go grab a cup of coffee or tea. So if this is your cup of tea, subscribe. Data visualization tools like Power BI are designed to be intuitive, but when it comes to creating a calculated column or a measure and figuring out which one you happen to need, it's not that intuitive. And so we're going to simplify that so it doesn't have to be this hard. The short and sweet version is that you'll want to use a measure anytime that you need some sort of an aggregation, like a year-to-date summary information. And you also want it to move along with the filters and slicers that you put on your visualization. You're going to want to use a calculated column if every row in your data needs some sort of a value assigned to it, or if you want to use it as a slicer specifically, so you need that value to actually be housed somewhere. It's also great when you need to improve the user experience. Measures can be a pain to an end user, and so that's another instance where you'd break one out even if a measure will accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. I'm always curious how other people use the tools, so if you already have a trick up your sleeve that you use to keep them straight, please toss it in the comments below to help other people figure it out as well. It's not intuitive. Measure is usually an aggregation, whereas a calculated column tends to be a row-by-row calculation. Measures are not stored, whereas the values of a calculated column are. Power BI calculates measures on the fly, but calculated columns are calculated when you create the formula or when the data set is refreshed. Measures consume CPU. Calculated columns use the memory, the RAM. So what this means is that it increases the size when you pull out a calculated column, but it increases the time that it will take an end user to interact with the report if you use a measure. When you use a measure, the value is displayed when you put it on a report. When you have a calculated column, however, you can actually see the values in the data tab because they're stored. An example of a measure would be year-to-date sales, so sum of sales, whereas an example of a calculated column would be profit, where you take sales minus cost. So in general, anytime you're using a calculated column, you're going to improve the experience for your end user, but it is going to increase the size of your data model since those values are literally stored. That said, measures are very dynamic based on the filters that you put on the dashboard. Don't be surprised if this takes you a couple of tries to get right to immediately go to the calculated column or measure that you need. I've actually created a cheat sheet and I threw it on the blog so you can bookmark at coffeebreakdata.com. I'll link it below to make it simple so that next time you need to figure out which one you need, you have a resource. And if you're not sure how to actually create a calculated column or a measure, I've got some videos here that you can check out that actually walk you through a bit more detail on each, as well as the actual walkthrough of creating it. There's lots of ways to accomplish things in Power BI. But don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe before you go.